everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to our week number 7 Twitch live stream for our research methods class. I'm on campus where it is cold and windy, so the internet isn't always fantastic, but hopefully you can always, or you can all hear and see me just fine. Is everything coming through all right on your end? Just to double check really quickly. Hopefully everything is loud and crystal clear and you can see me and hear me. While I'm waiting for all of you to let me know, really wild. I don't know if any of you have looked at our forecast, but I am absolutely obsessed with our weather at the moment. Holy smokes, like we have a chance of like snow and rain on like Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Like my weather forecasts a chance of snow and wintry mix or something like that, which would just be so much fun. It's going to be absolutely freezing. And if we got snow, that would be pretty epic. I have to tell you that I'm a little bit obsessed with it right now. So I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way, but I am crossing my fingers for some cold, snowy weather. That would be so much fun. It's going to snow like 2 feet up in the mountains, too. You can't with this cold. I know, it's freezing. It's going to be like a low of 34 today, which is so abnormal for our weather here. But so I'm sorry to be enjoying it while you're miserable over there. Yeah, so I live in Simi Valley, and yeah, there's a chance of snow on Friday. It says Friday there's a chance of rain and snow mix, which is just way crazy, right? I know, right? Crazy, can't even believe it. It is cold. It's definitely chilly. I got my jacket on even in my office because it's cold. Anyway, I'm sorry to distract you all and talk about random things, but oh my goodness, it is chilly and I'm loving it for the moment. I'm loving it. So anyway, let's go ahead and head over to Canvas. We have a lot to talk about today, just kind of getting through some of the stuff from last week since we had a few different assignments last week. So I want to go back and talk about those and then we'll get into what we have going on this week. But there was definitely a little bit of a challenge last week with the discussion and the homework, and so I want to go through those a little bit just to make sure that you are feeling as good about it as you can. Someone said, I'd love to see my dog Theodore is going to be so bummed. No trips to the dog park in this rain. I know. My dog too. My dog will be like, no. My dog hates the rain. You would think that like it was like acid rain or something. She absolutely hates water. So I understand. I understand all too well. So last week, okay, so let's look at discussion 6 and then we'll look at the homework assignment. Some of you absolutely nailed this, and some of you really struggled, and so I want to go through it a little bit just to make sure. So for the discussion, you were looking at 2 studies and deciding if they were correlational or experimental, and then kind of looking at the elements of them. And most of you did a beautiful job here on the discussion. You were okay with this, but maybe struggled a little with the homework. So Dr. Stevens was looking at the relationship between self-esteem and income. Asked their people to report their income and take a test. Nothing was manipulated. So this is just a correlational study. We're just looking at the naturally existing relationship between people's self-esteem and their income. We haven't manipulated or tried to control anything. So it's a correlational study, and it's a positive association or a positive correlation. As annual income increases, so does self-esteem. They're moving in the same direction. Because it is only correlational, we cannot conclude that income causes an increase in self-esteem because it's only a correlational study. Correlation does not imply causation, right? As we've talked about a few times. So you can only say that they are related, but not that they cause each other. It could go the other way. There could be another variable involved. The other one was a little different. Researchers randomly assigned participants to ingest kombucha and others to ingest a placebo. The participants as well as the assistants are unaware of who received each. After both groups have ingested their beverage, they read all of them a list of 10 letters. On average, the kombucha group recalled 10 letters, while on average the placebo recalled 5. So with this one, this is an experiment. We have randomly assigned people to 2 different groups. We're trying to test a condition. We have manipulated and measured the variables. So this is a experiment. And then you can ask yourself, what is the IV and the DV? What is the effect of kombucha on memory of the list of letters? So the independent variable is the kombucha, and the different conditions would be kombucha or placebo. And the dependent variable is how many letters they remember on that little list that was read to them. And we can conclude a little bit that maybe kombucha leads to better recall, but it's very simplistic. Not a lot of stuff being tested. So you could have talked about some limitations of that. But experiments do allow us to imply a little bit of cause. So as I said, most of you did pretty well on this, right? The first one being correlational, the second one being experimental. But then I asked you to go a little bit further with that with the homework assignment last week, and this definitely tripped some of you up, and others absolutely nailed it. So let's take a look at this together and see what we can come up with. So the first question, you were looking at these three different colleagues and trying to figure out what type of validity each one of them is addressing, and each one addressing a different one. Dr. Lopez was looking at external validity. He's looking at things like, where did we get the sample from? Maybe this is only true for my students and not for others. So Lopez was focused on external validity. Dr. Shaw is looking at, did the researchers conduct an experiment? If it is, what about third variables? Like, how do we define these terms? Dr. Shaw was looking at internal validity. And Dr. Jefferson, an increase in growth mindset can mean so many things. How did they operationalize that? Was looking at construct validity. So some of you really nailed this, and most of you were really close. So we have external, internal, and construct. And then for the next ones, what you were in charge of is reading through each one, identifying the independent and dependent variable, and then the levels of them and how they are operationalizing it. And most of you did a great job identifying the independent and dependent variable, but didn't go that extra step to talk about the levels of the independent variable or how they're operationalizing and measuring the dependent variables. So let's go through these together and make sure that you're feeling good about it. So the second one, a pharmacologist is testing whether a new anti-anxiety medication, MoodCore, will cause people to gain weight. To test this, she gives 100 people MoodCore for 1 month and 100 people placebo drug. At the end of the month, she monitors any weight gain by having them weigh in on a scale. So the independent variable in this case is the anti-anxiety medication. Are they receiving MoodCore or are they receiving a placebo? Are the two levels or conditions of the independent variable. The dependent variable is weight gain, which is being measured by having them weigh in on a scale. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Number 3, a clinical psychologist hypothesizes that listening to an inspirational tape will lead one to a better mood. To test this, she has 50 people listen to a 1-hour-long inspirational tape, and another 50 listen to white noise for an hour. She then has them rate their mood on a 10-point scale. So here we're wondering, what is the effect of listening to an inspirational tape on mood, right? So the independent variable is the inspirational tape. 50 people listen to a 1-hour tape and the other listen to 1-hour white noise. So those are the two conditions or levels, white noise versus inspirational tape. And then the dependent variable is rating your mood, which is being measured on a 10-point scale. Hopefully this is making sense as we go through. Number 4, a researcher is interested in whether drinking water right before bed increases the likelihood that children will wet the bed at night. The researcher recruits 55-year-old children to participate in her study. 25 children are given 2 glasses of water 2 hours before their bedtime, and 25 children are prohibited from receiving liquids within 2 hours of their bedtime. The researcher collects information from the parents of the children participating for 1 week. Parents are telephoned and asked to report whether the child wet the bed each night. So we're interested in here is what is the effect of drinking water right before bed on wetting the bed at night. Okay, so the independent variable is whether they drink water or not. The two conditions are one, who have 2 glasses of water right before bed, and the other, that they don't receive liquid. And then what we're measuring is did they wet the bed or not, which we're being asked on the phone. The last one, an Air Force psychologist hypothesizes that environmental temperature will affect pilots' reaction time. The task is to press as quickly as possible one of 5 buttons depending on which of 5 lights come on. Using 21 pilots, he tested each for 90 minutes. 7 pilots were in a 70-degree room, another 7 in a 90-degree room, and the last 7 in a 40-degree room. On average, the pilots in the 70-degree room took longer to respond than the ones in the 40 and 90-degree rooms. From these results, the Air Force psychologist concludes that the more uncomfortable the temperature, 90 degrees and 40 degrees, the faster the reaction time in seconds. So here, what is the effect of environmental temperature on reaction time? So the environmental temperature is the independent variable, and reaction time is the dependent variable. There are 3 different levels to the independent. We have the 90-degree room, the 70-degree room, and the 40-degree room. And then we are measuring reaction time by how fast they push a button, 5 buttons, depending on which light comes on. Okay, so that I think is the best way to look at these. Anytime you have a little example, ask yourself, what is the effect of X on Y? What is the effect of an anti-anxiety medication on weight gain? What is the effect of listening to a tape on mood? What is the effect of environmental temperature on reaction time? The first one is always the independent variable, and then the one that it might affect is the dependent variable. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit in going through that. Big thing, don't forget to identify the levels or conditions of the independent variable, and then how are we operationalizing or measuring whatever it is we're interested in on the dependent variable. A lot of you did a great job on this. I just wanted to make sure I went through it in a little more detail in hopes that that would help those of you who might be confused. Are there any other questions about the homework or discussion from last week? Anything you're confused on or need me to go over one more time before we move forward? I just want to double check before we progress forward. I'll give you just a minute to see if anybody has any other questions before we head forward into this week. All right, so I'm going to move forward. If you think of anything, put it in there. But this week, week number 7, hard to believe we're almost at the halfway point. We are looking at chapter 5. All good. Thank you, Susanna. I'm glad you're feeling good. So chapter 5, make sure you read that in the textbook. Make sure you go through my lecture and then watch the lecture video. So if we click on the lecture, this week we're looking at identifying good measurement. We're going to talk about construct validity. We're going to talk about different kinds of evidence that support construct validity of a measured variable. So what are some of the ways that we measure variables? What are the 3 types of measurements? What types of scales are there? What is reliability and how can it be measured? What is validity and how are we measuring it? So we're starting to, again, build on our constructs of internal and external validity and construct validity and statistical validity. How can we analyze those? How can we examine them a little bit more? What are the different types of measures that we can use? Beyond the book, I talked a little bit more about operationalization. How can we identify terms and define them? A little bit more on validity and kind of giving you different types of validity that we can look at. And then on the last page, the key terms in review, the key terms that you need to know from chapter 5 for the exam. So make sure you read through all that, kind of go through that in detail. Don't forget to watch my lecture video. This is me lecturing on chapter 5 to some slides. This is going to be really helpful for you in understanding the materials for this week. And then you do have a discussion. So discussion number 7 for this week. Let's take a look at that together. For discussion 7, as always, make sure you watch my little video, my little introduction video. And then you're going to want to answer all of my questions, think about them as mini papers, really elaborate and show off that knowledge. So what we're looking at here, one of the topics in chapter 5 involves creating operational definitions and the 3 different types of measures that could be used to measure those operationalizations. Describe how you could operationalize coffee intake using each of the 3 different types, a self-report measure, an observational measure, and a physiological measure. So that's part 1, right? How could we operationalize coffee intake in 3 different ways? And then I want you to go to, I give you 2 different links here just in case. Go and take this ice cream test. It's a little ice cream poll. And once you've completed it and have your results, I want you to answer the following questions. What flavor ice cream did you get? What did the results say about you? You're welcome to copy and paste the description or the image. That's totally fine for this question. Do you think this quiz is reliable? Explain and comment on the bullets below. What kind of reliability is relevant for this measure? How could you empirically establish the quiz's reliability? Describe one method you could use to quantify the reliability for this quiz. And then, do you think this quiz is valid? Explain and comment on the bullet below. How would you establish the criterion validity of this quiz if you wanted to do that? So kind of building on everything that we have going on, looking at operational definitions and measures, and then thinking about reliability and validity as it relates to an ice cream test. Now, it's maybe too cold for some of you to eat ice cream, but it's never too cold for me to eat ice cream. So just think about it. If you don't want to eat it, that's fine. Just be thinking about which kind you would pick. And then you're going to really look at reliability and validity and so on for this discussion. The only other thing that we have this week is we do have an extra credit question, which I will give you in a moment. I have a couple of reminders for you as well. First, please take a moment to double check your subscription status. Almost all of you have fallen off. I have like 200 students and 11 people are subscribed at the moment. So if you have the opportunity to double check that, I would really appreciate it. It saves me so much time, and very few people are still subscribed. I can show you in a minute how to redo that if you need to see how to renew that subscription for 30 more days. The other thing I would like to remind you, our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, March 1st at 12:30 p.m. So I put that here in the chat. We'll have a live stream next week at 12:30 on Wednesday like usual, and I will go over some feedback from this week and then the materials and things going on next week. Are there any other questions at all from anyone about anything else before I give you that extra credit question? I just want to make sure everyone's feeling as good as you can about everything going on. Let me go grab that question while you are thinking about that. So the extra credit question for this week, which is week number 7, extra credit. I'm glad so many of you are doing well. That's good. I'm glad you're feeling comfortable. So the extra credit question for this week is, what are the 3 different types of reliability? List and define all 3. What are the 3 types of reliability? List and define them. When you're ready, you'll head over to Canvas. Click on optional Twitch extra credit number 7, because we're in week 7. Up here at the top, click on Start Assignment. And that will bring up the text box where you can type your response. And when you're ready, hit Submit. You should get the little confetti burst, and balloons are in there as well. This is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. If you do this early and get it wrong, I will let you know, and you'll still have another opportunity to get it correct. A few of you answered the wrong extra credit question last week, so just make sure you're always looking at the right one. But other than that, those are the big things. Get started on the materials for this week. Make sure that you read the lecture, read the book, watch my lecture video, all those kind of usual things. I'm going to take a minute and show you on Twitch how you can renew your subscription for those of you who asked me. Several of you asked me. Thank you. One person figured it out. We're up to 12 instead of 11. So again, there are 45 of you in this class. So if you could work on that, that would be amazing. Let me show you on a football channel really quickly how you renew this for those of you who are confused. Yeah, you can put your name in here right now. That's perfect. Thank you. So if you're on my page, my Psyched with Setmire page on Twitch, underneath the banner right here, there's this purple drop-down menu. And if you click on that drop-down arrow and then scroll all the way down, this is where you're going to click Use Prime Sub and then subscribe with Prime for free for 1 month. This will allow you to renew this for 30 days. You'll need to do it a couple more times before our class is over, but that's how you can go ahead and do that. So on my Psyched with Setmire page, click on the purple drop down, all the way down, use Prime Sub, and then subscribe for free with Prime. Okay, so that's how you can go ahead and renew that if you wanted to do that. Otherwise, get going on this week, or put your name in the chat if you are here. If you're watching this later, make sure you're subscribed in order to get credit. But otherwise, let's hope for some snow and some freezing cold weather for a few days. Stay warm, stay safe, drive safe. If it rains, especially if it's icy, please make sure you're really, really being careful out on the road. I hope you all are hanging in there and doing well. Good luck with the materials this week. I'm going to hang out for a little bit if you have any questions, but I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself. But I will hang out for a little while if you think of anything. Otherwise, I will hope to see you all next week for our week number 8 live stream on Wednesday. So take care of yourselves, everyone. And I will hang out for a few minutes, like I said, if you think of anything that you want to ask. Thank you as well. Thank you so much for all of you being on here with me live. I really enjoy your company. So thank you for being on here with me. Thank you as well. Be safe. Yeah, all of you as well. Be safe. Stay safe in this weather. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know, Amy.